What do you get when you have 2 microphones, a bottle of bourbon, and plenty of time to kill? It's the Bourbon Talking Podcast with Billy and Jimmy. Glad you found us. Sit back, relax. Let's see what we get into. Yeah, I'm from Chester. We didn't have a king where I came from. We did have this guy named Ricky.
Was he like the unofficial mayor of Chester?
No, he just kind of like had the rickets. We called him Ricky. You know, it just ended up he was on meth. I don't think we had meth back then. When was meth invented? I don't even know what Ricky's real name was. He just had the ricket. You know, he was always moving. He was doing something. You know,
I mean,
even when he was standing still, he was walking. You know, he'd wear a hole in the dirt. I was throwing hickory nuts at the house one day. We had a 2-story house, but the porch.
Wait, you sure you weren't in prison? I mean, it just sounds like you just.
No, man, my dad was so loving.
He beat you with his hand.
Was a terror. You don't understand. I was actually not that bad, but the kind of man that my dad was, he didn't deserve a little shithead like I was a handful. Our porch had like rotted off the house, so we had removed it. But on the second story of the house was a door. You open a door and there's nothing. So I'm throwing hickory nuts. Well, that door is at the top of the inside stairwell going up to the second floor. And Dad's inside the house watching wrestling or chips or whatever. Wrestling. He keeps hearing something hit the house and he can't figure out what the hell it is. Because I'm on the side behind a tree throwing hickory nuts at the house.
It's that shithead of a son he had, obviously. Yeah. I mean, come on, shooting squirrels, falling out of trees, throwing hickory nuts. I mean,
I'm just trying to see from his perspective.
I'd have put your ass up for adoption like after like week 2.
My dad, he's just got finished working 65, 75 hours a week, and he's trying to relax for a minute. And he's like, what the hell is that noise? You know? So finally he goes upstairs because I'm hitting the top of the house, you know. As soon as he goes up to the top of the steps and looks out the little window of that door is when I just throw a strike right to that window. Bang! And that hickory nut hits like right where his face is looking out that door. He snatches that door open. Get your ass in the house. I sat down in a rocking chair and Dad is so mad. My dad grabbed that chair by the arms and he just starts shaking. He just starts trembling.
You just brought out the worst in him, didn't you?
And these big veins were popping out on his neck and this big vein down his forehead. And he's just sitting there and he's not saying nothing. And I'm like, Dad?
You gave him a stroke.
Dad? And all of a sudden.
I tell you, adoption, 2 weeks.
All of a sudden.
That's where you should have gone.
Bang, the chair explodes. He broke the chair I was sitting in. And I just fell straight to the floor. He just stood over me. He reached out a hand, picked me up, and he walked off. That was all he had to do. I knew not to throw hickory nuts at the house no more. Remember the TV show Chips? And
yeah, that was John and Punch.
Yeah, John and Punch. And what came on right before Chips? Rescue 911 emergency. Remember that?
That was Rescue 51.
Oh, yeah, it probably was. Anyway, this is back in the 70s. So, but they would come up on the scene in their ambulance and they'd open up this little tackle box.
You just make up TV shows out of there, right? You don't even, they're not even real.
This is real, man. Every joke I say has an ounce of truth in it. So this has got a whole lot of truth in it. So they had this TV show that's called like Emergency Rescue something 51, whatever. Anyway,
Emergency. That was the name of the show. No 51, no 57, 911. It was just Emergency.
It was just Emergency. Okay, good. We got that now. When you open up the tackle box, it had like a telephone, like a real telephone receiver. Who the hell they calling back in 1970 with a telephone? Like they had a dispatch to the hospital. We didn't even have that technology back then. But anyway. And there was an EKG, and you had a defib so you could paddle somebody, you know.
So let me guess. And then right after Chips was Magnum MD, right? He was a doctor?
No, Magnum PI. Anyway, I digress. That was a toy you could buy by a kid, was that little tackle box. I had a cedar tree in the backyard, and I had this brilliant idea. I was 7 years old.
Let me guess, you shot that too and had to eat it.
Nope. I remember it like it was yesterday. My dad told me don't climb the tree. So I decided to climb this tree.
And they had to call a real ambulance.
And my idea was I was going to hook a rope to that my box, and I was going to pull it up the tree to rescue the pretty girl that was imaginary pretty girl that I didn't have.
Jane was up there?
I don't know what her name was.
Tarzan's wife?
So as I'm up in this tree, something happened with the rope, and the rope did not hold me. So I fell. And as I was falling, I could remember my grandmother telling me, if you break your tailbone, you'll be paralyzed. So I put my arm behind me, and I landed on my arm and snapped my arm in half, and it was like broke. Like I had two elbows. It was broke bad. Dumbass. I was 7 years old. I felt no pain. All I felt was fear. Oh, shit. I got to tell my dad I broke my arm. So I'm holding my arm. I run inside the house, and I tell my dad, Dad, something happened. Dad already knew what happened.
Yeah.
He looks at me. He says, you broke your damn arm. I'm like, I was only 7. That was obvious. So we had
an old. Not shoot a lizard, Daddy.
We had one of them big Pontiac Grand Dams, big land barge, 2-door. Before he even started the car to take me to the hospital, Dad fires up the chainsaw, goes back.
Cut your arm off?
Cut that tree down to the ground. Boom, after he dropped the tree. Worried. Then he puts me in the car. Takes me to Dr. Rowe.
I thought he was going to his own medical procedure on you. I was worried.
Dude. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. We had this guy named Hambone. He lived around the corner. If a house was haunted, you just by looking at it from the outside, this was the one. Vines growing on the fence. And I mean, I'm from a poor community, so just because the grass wasn't cut didn't mean anything. Nobody cut their grass back today, but we always thought the house was haunted. And we'd sneak in it, just to see how long we could stay in the house without getting scared. We were probably about 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, something like that. And then one day we're going by the house, and there's a guy sitting on the front porch playing a guitar. I was like, who the hell's that guy? Come to find out, he's lived there for like years. So every time we would break into that house to just hang out to see if there was ghosts in the house, because we would always hear creaking and things happening upstairs, we had actually just broke into somebody's house, and that wasn't ghosts making noise. That was a dude upstairs in his damn house.
We called that criminals.
Yeah, it's called a B&E. This is a fictitious story, by the way. It's just for your listening pleasure. It actually never happened. I don't know. For whatever reason, my parents told me don't go hang out with that guy.
Well, obviously they know his record here is, B&E and.
Well, it's probably because I was a small little boy and he was some 65-year-old dude who probably just. But the guy had some chops. He taught me what chops was. You know what chops is when you're playing the guitar?
No, I need you to explain that one.
Chops is kind of like is rhythm, He's got chops, It's just, but anyway, the guy was a blues player.
Pork chops?
No, not pork chops. He's just got the rhythm.
But he got some pork chops. I'm coming over for dinner.
So I used to get in trouble for going down and listening to him play.
Who, pork chop?
No, Hambone.
Hambone's cooking pork chops.
Hambone has some chops. Maybe that's why we called him Hambone.